seeing those images? Yeah, what was it?
He was the chosen one.
He was a chosen one, okay? Supposedly the chosen one to bring balance to the force. What else? What else did you see in those videos? Anybody? Adults? Anybody? What else was it, Anakin Skywalker? What was his characteristics?
Pretty pasty.
What?
Like white.
What else, Jake?
2 words. Anger management.
Anger. He had a lot of anger going on. Anger issues. Okay? Anakin Skywalker. The story of Anakin Skywalker. We asked him. He was very confused. In the first episode, Qui-Gon Jinn and them, they found him as a young boy in this little town. He was with his mother. He was about 8, 9, 10 years old, somewhere in there. Told him he was meant for greater good. He left his mother at a young age. Left her and went on to this thing. He wanted to do good. But he was deceived by a lot of bad influences as he was growing up. I mean, he wanted to do good. He wanted to do better. It was like when he was there, and we'll talk about this later on to kind of compare him with somebody. In the first episode, if you've ever seen him, he went and won a pod race to win some things for the Queen and for the Jedis to get them off the planet. He was trying to do good, but he had a lot of bad influences come about. As you saw there in the video, his mother gets killed in like episode 2. And that starts his anger. And his anger continues to grow. And then he sees these visions. He can see these visions in his head of future things happening. And he tries and he wants to make those things stop. But he doesn't know how he can do that without the help of the Emperor. And that's where the Emperor starts making the influences. And the Emperor, of course, is the bad influence. You know, he was lied to by the Emperor. The Emperor told him all these different things and promised him all these different things. But that's the devil. That's Satan right there. You can associate the Emperor as Satan, just telling him those bad things and deceiving him. In episode 3, when you saw him becoming Darth Vader, he was lied to. He was told that he killed his wife and the children were never born. So that's why he didn't find out till later that Luke was his son, because he was lied to. He had always, he was angry, he had greed, and he had a lust for power. When that evil started coming out, he had all those things going on. And then, of course, he becomes Darth Vader. And all that is because of the Force. You know, the dark side of the Force. You know, we can all fall victim to its power. It's out there, and we have to be careful of that. We have to make sure we have our guard up. You know, it's controlled by Satan, who is our Darth Vader today. You know, he is trying to get us to come over to the evil side, to the dark side, to do his power, to do his will. And he just draws us in by many things. You know, what's some teenage things that you get drawn in by? Think about that. What's some different things that you get drawn in by? Just think about that through the course, and we'll answer that question in a minute. You know, we may have a lust for power. We may have a lust for money. We may have a lust for success. There's many lusts out there that we associate it. Adults have the problems too. Teenagers have the problem. We all have it. Because Satan wants to take over God, and Satan wants everybody to be on his side. Because he knows, if you go back to the cross, when Jesus died on the cross, it said, "It is finished." And Satan knew he was in trouble that day, because Jesus Christ died for all of our sins, and we're supposed to follow him and make sure we're on that path. We have to be wary of what it can do to us, because it conflicts us, it brings us pain, and it brings us lost from God. We're lost from God if we follow the dark side. And we do that. Sorry, I wanted to use that background, but I know that wording is not correct. But anyway, we want to look at a biblical character. The King Saul. King Saul was a character that we can learn about. Back in the book of 1 Samuel. If we look at King Saul, who was King Saul? Does anybody know who King Saul was to begin with? Yeah, who was it?
A king.
He was king. All right, who was he? First king of Israel. Who was he king before?
Huh?
Who was he the king before?
David.
Huh?
David.
David comes after him, okay? He was destined for greatness, okay? But the fall of King Saul, we look about it and we can kind of compare his life to Anakin Skywalker. He started out humbly. He was the son of Kish, and he was the first king of Israel. And like I said, he has some comparisons. His life was very humble. He was destined for great things. He possessed personal gifts of being handsome and a born leader. He was destined for greatness. God pointed him out. Samuel pointed him out as a prophet. He was chosen by God, as I said. And he was chosen by the Lord to be the battle for the good guys. So if you look back at that, that's just like Anakin was chosen by Qui-Gon Jinn and by Obi-Wan. They found him, and he was destined to do good. He was chosen by Samuel, as I said, to be the prophet, to be Samuel the prophet, to be the king of Israel. In 1 Samuel 10, verses 1 through 13. Another thing that I was talking about, the pod race, that Anakin saved these people and was destined for good things. One of the first things that Saul did is he went out and he saved Jabesh-Gilead from Nahash, the Ammonite, in a battle. And saved them and did greatness. And that started the greatness right there. He was on path to be destined to do great things. And was going to be a great warrior. But then he started a little bit of a slide to, if you want to say, the dark side. And it began in 1 Samuel 13, verses 1 through 15. We're going to look at that verse. Let me get back here where I can read a little bit better. If you look at the things underlined, they're kind of the highlights of the verse. In 1 Samuel 13, 1 through 15, it says, Saul reigned 1 year, and when he had reigned 2 years over Israel, Saul chose for himself 3,000 men of Israel. 2,000 were with Saul in Michmash and in the mountains of Bethel, and thousands were with Jonathan in Geba of Benjamin. And then you go down where the next red line is. It says, Then Saul blew the trumpet throughout all the land, saying, Let the Hebrews hear. Now all Israel heard it said that Saul had attacked a garrison of the Philistines, and that Israel had also become an abomination to the Philistines. And it talks about all the chariots and their different things that he did. Now you go down to verse 8. Then he waited 7 days according to the time set by Samuel. Now Samuel had told him to go ahead and go into battle, do these different things. But Samuel said, you need to wait on me. Wait till I get there. Okay? This is how hard is it for you to wait? Your parents say, don't touch that weight. The teacher says, wait, be patient. How hard is it?
Very hard if it involves food.
Very hard if it involves food. Okay? Our patience, our desires and different things, it's hard to wait. Okay? I got a 5-year-old. I know how a 5-year-old, it's hard to wait. He can't wait. Teenagers can't wait. Adults can't wait. It's hard for us to wait sometimes when maybe we want something so bad or maybe we know we can do it. This is where Saul starts going into his own mind and saying, maybe I need to disobey. Maybe I need to go past what Samuel wants me to do. But Samuel did not come to Gilgal, and the people were scattered from him. So Saul said, bring a burnt offering and peace offerings here to me. And he burnt the offering. Okay? He did what the people wanted to do. He did what he desired to do in his own mind. He desired to go ahead and do what he was told not to do. Okay? And then if you get there to verse 11, it says, and Samuel said, what have you done? Saul said, when I saw the people were scattered from me, and that you did not come within the days appointed, and that the Philistines gathered together, then I said, the Philistines will now come down on me at Gilgal, and they have not made speculation to the Lord. Therefore I felt compelled and offered a burnt offering. What did he do wrong? What did he do wrong, Jake?
He didn't wait for the high priest.
He didn't wait for him. He didn't do that. Who did he listen to?
Himself.
Himself? Who else did he listen to? The people. He was scared. He started getting scared. He didn't have a trust in Samuel, but he didn't have a trust in God. That's the underlying factor right there. He didn't have that trust. And we lose that too sometimes. If we're not prayerful, if we're not in our Bibles, if we're not a true follower of God, we lose that trust. And we desire to do things our own way. And that's where we get ourselves in trouble. We take God out of the picture. And this is what Saul did. He took Samuel out of the picture, but he also took God out of the picture because Samuel was telling him, this is what God wants you to do. And Samuel said to Saul, you have done foolishly. You have not kept the commandment of the Lord which he commanded. And then verse 14. It's where it really gets stuck to Saul. Remember, he's the first king. He's the chosen one. He's the one that is supposed to be there for God. Supposed to be there for Israel. Supposed to be there for all the people to be the next king. And Samuel breaks it to him in verse 14. But now your kingdom shall not continue. The Lord has sought for himself a man after his own heart. And the Lord has commanded him to be a commander over his people, because you have not kept what the Lord has commanded you. He's talking about David being the next king. Power began to corrupt Saul's heart, leading him to the dark side of disobedience. He left God. He desired what he wanted to do in his own heart. He disobeyed God. Again, in another battle with the Amalekites. Anybody know that story in the battle with the Amalekites? He did two things wrong. He was supposed to do one major thing with the battle of the Amalekites. Anybody know?
Kill everything.
Kill what?
Everything.
What?
Everything.
Everything. What's everything?
Everything.
What is everything? What is everything?
Man, women, children, cows, sheep,
Everything.
a rock if you want to.
And there was two things major he did not kill. What was the two things?
Sheep and wool.
He didn't kill the livestock, and he didn't kill the king. He didn't kill the king because he wanted to kind of parade the king around and say, I captured him, I killed all his people, and that's basically what was going on. And he wanted to kind of parade him around. And then the livestock and stuff, they were too good to kill. But he didn't listen to God again. He disobeyed. He thought he was doing good, but he wasn't. He was doing wicked things. Like I said, if you've seen the movies and if you look at what that video showed, comparing him, Anakin thought he was doing good things, but he wasn't. He was going down the path to evil and the dark side. Just like King Saul, he was falling to the dark side, disobeying God, doing things in his own heart. How many times do we do that as people? Teenagers, adults, people of God, how many times do we go with our own heart and not of God? We have to be careful of that because that's what leads us to destruction. If we see that, he gave offers to God. He wasn't supposed to. He was rebuked before God, and he would not become king. So that kind of wraps all that up. So let's look at 1 Samuel 15:24. It says, Then Saul said to Samuel, I have sinned. And this is Saul going back and he's trying to repent of that. For I have transgressed the commandment of the Lord, your words, because I feared the people and obeyed their voice. Kind of sounds like somebody else in the book of Exodus. Exodus 32. Who else listened to the people when his brother went up on the hill? Aaron. He listened to the people. What did the people want to do?
Make a bull out of gold.
Make the bull, make the golden calf, and do all that. Aaron was supposed to stand there and let the people and encourage the people and be of God, but he didn't. He listened to the people. We've got to listen to God. We've got to make sure we're listening to God. He gave in to the people, however, but greed, fear, and pride also motivated him. All three things led to him disobeying God. He didn't look at God's will, and this is Saul. He looked at his own self-interest and self-arrogance. When we think we can when we think we can do everything ourselves, we get into trouble. And that even goes with, we need to make sure God comes first. And that's the thing about it is, and I've said this before in teenage class, I've said it before in some other sermons that I've done and different things. I'll never forget. I did the sermon on Valentine's Day at a Valentine's banquet for our church. And it comes from a great book from Willard Tate, and he talks about love and loving yourself first. Loving God, loving yourself first, and then loving others. Okay? So that's where it needs to go. You put God first, then you put yourself, then you put others. And what Mr. Tate's point is about that is, if you don't love God, then you can't love yourself. If you don't love yourself, then you can't show love to others. And somebody kind of said, well, that sounds a little selfish. Not really if you think about it. You got to have God first. Okay? In everything. Marriage, life, family, friendship. You've got to put God first. God's got to be in the picture. And then you can put yourself. Because if you're focused with God, then you can go to yourself next. And if you're happy about yourself, if you love yourself, if you're great where you're at and everything, you're going to be able to show that compassion to everybody. You know, the self-interest, the self-arrogance, and being all that stuff is a downfall for disaster and just draws you away from people, draws you away from God and everything else. And that's what Saul was doing. He wanted to listen to the people. He wanted to be prideful. Saul was harassed by the evil spirits, but he found relief from David. This is kind of funny. He found relief from David playing music on his harp in 1 Samuel 16. Yet Saul wanted to kill David so badly because David was going to be the next king. He felt relief with listening to music, but yet he wanted to kill him. So that shows that Saul was not happy with himself. He was not happy in any situation. The other things about Saul was he went against God again in Saul chapter 28 when he went out and sought the advice of spirit people. Like it was called a medium in the Bible. And you've heard of mediums. People that thought they could tell different things. A psychic kind of the way. And he went against that, and Samuel did wrong there. And then in Samuel chapter, I think I got the wrong chapter written down here. It's in 32 or something like that, or right at the end of the book of 1 Samuel, he died a tragic death. He tried to get one of his soldiers or servants to kill him, but he ended up killing himself and died upon his own sword. And then his servant died along with him. So he died a cruel death and died in shame of what he was doing to God. We don't need to do that. We don't need to die that spiritual death. Just like Saul did in his lifetime. So, have you ever been tempted by greed or pride to dishonor God? The power of pride is real. What is pride? What is pride? What do you think, Jake?
Self-confidence.
Self-confidence? What else is pride? What do you think, Jake?
Having a certain type of love for something.
Okay. Certain type of love or something. What else is pride? Being prideful.
Self-elevation, like lifting yourself above something else.
Okay. Lifting yourself above something. Good. Anybody else got any?
Overconfident in something.
I'm sorry?
You're overconfident.
Overconfident in something. Good. Anybody else got anything? I got a question down here. What are some things that are prideful? I told y'all to be thinking about stuff along those lines, temptations, lust, and everything. The question is, what are some things that are prideful for teenagers?
What devices you have.
Devices you have. What? Alcohol.
Your car.
Your car.
Your clothes.
Your clothes. What else is prideful for teenagers? What? How many friends you have?
If you're different than someone else.
Differences.
The money.
I'm sorry?
The money.
Money.
Your talents.
Talents.
Grades.
Grades. Great answers. What else? What else is prideful for teenagers? Let's throw it to the crowd in the back. What's prideful for adults? What? Job. I'm sorry? Power and influence. Possessions. What else? All those different things that y'all said, if you think about it, you think about the old, when y'all kept saying different things. I kept thinking back to that old, the old hymn, or if you want to call it old, just a hymnal in our song book. This world's not my home, only passing through. The treasure laid up somewhere around. None of that's going to matter. Friends was one that came out. It doesn't matter how many friends you got. You don't even need one friend. And that's God first. And then you can build off of that. But then the thing about it is your friends, if they don't believe in God, then you don't need them. In your life being that bad influence, you need to be the influence upon their lives. Been trying to really stress out with the teens in our ASW group and our Wednesday night club. They're bringing a lot of friends to church. Share the love of God, but if there's something that starts drawing you away or they try to take you away from God, you don't need them as friends. They need to respect who you are and respect God's life. If we look at this verse, sorry, I skipped ahead. 1 Corinthians 10, 13, 14. It says, no temptation has overtaken you except such as is common to man, but God is faithful, who will not allow you to be tempted beyond what you are able, but with temptation will also make the way of escape that you may be able to bear it. Therefore, my beloved, free from idolatry. Who is faithful? Who's faithful? God. God is faithful. Paul is making sure we understand that. He's making sure the Corinthian church understands that, and us today. God is faithful no matter what. And that's one of the things you said about friends. I know it's hard as a teenager. It's hard as an adult. Who you run around with, who you're associated with. But the first and foremost friend you ought to have is God. Let's look at another one. Let's get before this. You know, the traits that Saul led to his demise were fear, disobedience, anger, arrogance, or called the power of drunkenness. You know, you're power drunk. You know, you're drunk on power. You want that. You gotta have it. And sometimes that's a scary one. Because sometimes we don't think we're doing that. But if you really look deep down inside, you could be doing it and not even knowing it. You know what I'm saying? You know, arrogance is a thing that it's hard. That's a really hard one, I think, sometimes. Because sometimes you almost get too arrogant and you don't know you have that arrogance in you. You have to be really careful of that. Here's another one. A leader who follows instead of leading. Some of us can be leaders. Some of us are going to only be followers. But if you're a leader that follows and not leading, well, you're not a leader for sure. But you think you are. Does that make sense? Does everybody kind of follow along with that one? A leader who follows but doesn't lead instead of leading. If you're going to be a leader, be out front, be a leader. Take people to God. Take people to a place that they need to be. Encourage people and do that thing. Just don't be a leader and stand there and think everything's going to get done. Then you're basically a follower. You know, if we go back, Saul started out as a humble man, but he thought too much of himself. He was, as we look back at the beginning, he was supposed to be a born leader. But in the end, he started following what the desires of people were and not what he needed to do because he wasn't listening to God. Don't give into the dark side. You know, that's the thing about it is you can see here. Let's make sure we guard our hearts and give to God. If we look at this verse, it says, but Jesus called them to himself and said to them, you know that those who are considered rulers over the Gentiles lord it over them, and their great ones exercise authority over him. Yet it shall not be so among you. But whoever desires to become great among you shall be your servant. And whoever of you desires to be first shall be a slave of all. For even the Son of Man did not come to be served, but to serve and to give his life ransom. If we misuse the power, it can lead us down to the road to dark side. We need to be a servant. Jesus came to this earth, and he did not go over his authority. He was doing what God commanded. That's where we need to take ourselves, just like he did. He came to serve, not to be served. We need to be doing the same things, and that's going to help us stay on that path where we need to be and not draw down. If you get drawn in by different things, just don't give into them. That's the thing that when you have darkness coming into your life, find help. Find somebody to help you. Find a friend. Pray to God. Talk about it. Don't keep it inside. Those movies, you can see in that character, he kept things inside. He didn't share. And when he did share and people tried to draw him back, he didn't listen. He was arrogant. Same as Saul. He was arrogant. Samuel tried to draw him back in, and he went out and did the same thing again to the Amalekites. He didn't listen. We have to make sure that we're on the path and doing what we need to do. This is a quote I found from this English historian way back in the day from Lord Acton. All power tends to corrupt, and absolute power corrupts absolutely. Power is going to corrupt people. It's whether you go over and continue to do what you don't need to do. Absolute power is going to corrupt absolutely. That's meaning you've already given over, and it's going to take you down a path that you'll never come back from. Let's be careful with that. The dark side in our life, and I'm not talking about the dark side of Star Wars. The dark side in our life is real. Satan is real, and he can take us down a path that's hard to get back. Let's make sure we stay on the right path. Pain?